Thank you very much. I think that it's going to be a tough act to follow after Daniel. We're going to be talking about quite a few of the same things. We have a completely different approach. I was glad to hear about Allo Neuro's approach to this market. One is we're going to be talking about the fact that there's a middle ground between cognitive training, which is basically what you did in school, and trying to do it in the computer age, and doing electrical stimulation of your brain. What sits somewhere in between is something called neurofeedback, which is what you do when presented with the brain, the actual activity of your brain, the electrical activity that Daniel alluded to earlier today. You can actually use that knowledge of what's going on in your brain in real time to retrain that specific area of the brain, that specific function of your brain that's causing a problem. In our case, the focus is on diseases. We don't work in the enhancement of brains. We're talking about diseases, and what I'm going to present to you today are actually medical devices, which is you can't acquire them yet. You would have to go to a doctor, you'd have to have ADHD, you'd have to have Alzheimer's disease, and then your doctor would prescribe them to you, and then you'd use it in the home pretty much like Daniel's technology do. So a few words just to set the groundwork, although I'm grateful for the fact that so much of that neuroscience was already introduced to you by Allo Neuro before. So who we are, we're a French company. We're founded here 2 years ago, built on almost 10 years of research in various public institutions here, most notably INRIA, the Computer Science Research Institute based here in Paris. So we're very much a software company. What we did is we actually licensed software that had been created in the lab to allow researchers to create virtual reality environment which you could interact with through thought. And basically, in order to be able to do thought control computing, they needed to have a way to measure what was going on in the brain, and they created a ton of software that actually reads the activity in your brain via what's called a biomodality, a way of measuring your brain activity, which is called electroencephalography. Electroencephalography has been around for quite a bit of time. It's very safe. We're reading electrical activity in the brain. We're not sending anything in the brain. It's sometimes a bit uncomfortable, not because we're using any electricity, but just because the form factor of what you're wearing on your head is sometimes a bit uncomfortable, but that's it. So it's absolutely safe. It's been discovered about 100 years ago, and for something like 90 or 80 years, clinicians, researchers were scratching their heads, wondering what they could do about it. In the late 50s, we discovered that we were able to diagnose epilepsy with it. Then a couple of sleep diseases were also diagnosed with it. In the US, EEG is used in the operating room to make sure that when they sedate you, you stay sedated and don't wake up in the middle of the operation, which is always a bit of a challenge for the patients and the doctors. But it's really not widely used, and what we're proposing to do is use real-time software to be able to extract meaningful information out of that electrical activity that you have in real time, present it to you, so that with that activity you can actually learn to control your brain. And again, the main focus of application for this, there are a number of diseases for which we know it works. We know it works for post-traumatic stress disorder. We know it works in specific instances of insomnia, in particular type 1 insomnia. And what we've decided to do is actually try to put it in the hands of families so that kids with attention deficit disorders could actually be treated in the home instead of having to take drugs, in particular drugs of the amphetamine family, which are known to have side effects, which are known to have recreative use issues, and which are known to create upregulation of the transponder in the brain, which means that the brain, when you take those drugs, actually resists what's happening to it and raises or depresses some of the chemicals that are in the brain in order to resist the influence of the drug. With our technology, all of that disappears because, as has been pointed out by several researchers, it's the one way you can treat your brain which does not rely on influence that comes outside of the brain. It's actually the brain itself which rewires itself through cognition. What we do day in, day out, is we do a lot of research still now. We do research in big data. We do research in neuroscience. We apply research that we also license from labs outside. And we also do a lot of research in software engineering because all of this has to run in real time. And of course, if we're going to deploy it in the home, all of this has to run over the internet, which is a further challenge. I challenge you to name me a software company that is delivering a medical solution over the internet today. And that's one of the challenges, in addition to all of the others that we're tackling and taking on, that we're trying to solve. A couple of words about ourselves, just to set the stage. We sell this solution. We have 2 customers in the US. First, a customer in Japan was announced. Those are business-to-business transactions, where basically we have co-development deals with those companies, and where the objective is for them to use our technology to push products to market. I'll flag one in particular, a US company called Evoke Neuroscience here, based in New York, which is using that to work with patients with, in particular, patients with post-traumatic stress disorders. What's unique, and in a way, another way to, for which the question is interesting for this audience, is what do you need to do in order to make it work? It's another way to look at it, a bit less self-centered, I guess. The first one is we've decided to focus on software. EEG has been around for a century. There have been a pretty big wave of innovation in EEG in the past 10 years. There are about 100 headsets out in the market. We're compatible with 30 of them. And if you buy any of those headsets from companies like Emotiv out in the US, from companies out in Germany here called Brain Products, to give you 2 examples, those headsets come with little to no software. So basically, our impression was that the hardware side of the issue was solved, especially on the medical end. What was missing is the real-time software, because lo and behold, of course, it's a tough problem to solve. So we focused on that element, which is try to bring medical-grade, industry-grade software into an industry which was very much focused on creating hardware for research up until now. Real-time, there are 2 ways to think about this problem. A lot of researchers are thinking about it in what's called offline, which doesn't mean the same thing for you guys that it does for neuroscientists. Offline for a neuroscientist means non-real time. It means that you can actually record the information, and then you take whatever time you need in order to process it. That part of the problem is not of huge interest for us. It's a research problem, very interesting one for people of a mathematical bent, but not the one on which we're focused. All of the algorithms, all of the cures we're trying to push to market have to work in real time. And by real time, we mean less than half a second between recording the brain information we get out of on your skull and sending you back some feedback on a tablet, on a PC, or on a smartphone. And that includes the round trip to our server over the internet, so it has to run really fast. It has to be complete. We can't just focus on acquiring the data. And so what we've struggled to do is create serious games on the basis of that technology and provide a complete chain. In a sense, you don't, except for connecting the device, we take care of all of the rest of the problem. We acquire the data, we process it, we remove all of the noises, we get context information out of it, and then we send it back to you, and we present you in what actually looks like a lot like a serious game. And that's important, especially for kids. Kids with ADHD tend to have trouble concentrating. That's the name of the game. That's the nature of their disease. So if you present them with metaphors, with interfaces which are boring, they're going to lose interest. And that's something which is very important for us. We've created quite a bit of software, in particular the mathematics, to be able to do that well, in a way that's replicable, in a way that's scientifically validated. And we've pushed all of that onto the internet, and we're able to run this right now over servers which are hosted in France and deploying the solution worldwide. I will not hide the fact that if you're sitting in Korea, as one of our partners is doing, and trying to do real-time neurosciences over the French server, it can get a bit lengthy. The answer does exceed the half-a-second mark I was mentioning before. And then we've got several patents in draft. One has been filed already. Final thing I wanted to mention, all of this was made possible thanks to open source software. We actually built all of our solution on an open source software, which you can download yourself, called OpenVibe, which is open source software for brain-computer interfaces. And I'm proud to report all of that software was actually created here by INRIA, INSERM, and CNRS. So I guess this is very much something that you've heard before. It's a big market. Drugs for the central nervous system it's a $78 billion market. I'm going to talk pharma and drugs a bit, if you allow me. It's a market which is undergoing a number of gyrations, I guess. The first one is there are very few drugs. I mean, the pipeline is pretty bare because so many drugs actually fail. As I said earlier, the brain defends itself very well. And so a lot of pharma have actually reduced their investment in trying to develop drugs for the central nervous system. In addition to the pharma angle, we believe that there's huge interest from clinicians, from patients, and even from people with healthy brains for an alternative way to think about one's neurological health. And so we think that there's a huge demand for alternative solutions, whether they are TDCS-based solutions like HaloNeuro, whether they are TMS solutions, solutions where you actually blast a magnetic wave through your skull, or solutions which we believe are a bit less invasive, a bit more less, having a bit less of an impact on your brain, such as ours. So we really believe this is something that can come as a complement or as an alternative to some of the drugs that are being used today. Again, the two diseases we have first and foremost as targets, the first one being ADHD, the second one being Alzheimer's disease. This is basically the way our vision of the way we will be treating ADHD in the future. Two things really are important. One, of course, this is all running over a cloud, over the internet. And the other thing is all three stakeholders are important. We don't think you can really cure kids of ADHD without the involvement of family. But the other thing we think is important is we actually believe in the human touch of the doctor or a therapist or a nurse. And our solution is very much, has been architectured so that it will always be under the supervision and in the geographies where it's important with the prescription of a doctor. Again, this is not off-the-shelf technology which you're going to be able to acquire at Best Buy. This is technology that's medical, and we think it's human technologies in the sense that there's always a doctor involved that can really qualify this, qualify your state, qualify your disease, qualify your response to your disease, and qualify your compliance with the treatment. The way our vision for Alzheimer's is pretty much the same. The reason why I'm adding this headset over there is that we're creating this platform in partnership with a Korean company called Y-Brain. They actually do that headset which you see over there, and which is a TDCS plus EEG headset. And the research, as Daniel was saying earlier, has shown that TDCS is actually very, very effective against Alzheimer's disease. And so basically what we're going to do with it here is Y-Brain does the TDCS, and we're adding neurofeedback to help slow down the cognitive decay that comes with neurodegenerative disorders. Those are technical slides, so basically just again re-emphasizing the fact that we have the full functional coverage from acquisition of the signal, which is always important, we always need information, all the way down to action, which is the serious game that you're looking at when you're trying to rewire a brain. There are plenty of other applications for this technology. Depression is another one. Anxiety disorders is another one. And then there are a sort of wave of potential applications outside of medicine in the brain enhancement market. And we see about half a dozen to a dozen companies going after this market at the moment. So it's actually a very exciting moment in time to be doing a startup like this, because it feels that the future is going to look very different from what we had, from all of the weapons we had at our disposal just 2, 3, 4 years ago in treating brain diseases and managing one's neurological health. Thank you very much.